Yeah, I enjoy learning new ideas. For example, just the whole idea of a learning orientation. I was learning more about that when it comes to evil, something called Syndrome E, to explain that people engage in mass murder not because of the primitive parts of the brain, but the higher parts of the brain, which may explain why it's humans that engage in repetitive mass murder as opposed to animals. Maybe it's because our reasoning stays intact, but we get hijacked. So those are just some things that I'm learning about, and I get excited about, and keeps me motivated to keep going.
So who are your heroes?
Historically, William Wilberforce would be, Lincoln would be, more modern times, George Marshall would be one. I have a lot of admiration for the Obamas. He and she would be a contemporary one. There are some sports figures. Steve Kerr would be a hero. There have been some personal ones. A couple of pastors I've had in the last 10 years I've admired for their ability to step down from the power role, from 1,000 people congregations to step back. I think not many people can do that effectively, to step down and start. So on a personal level, there have been people like that.
Any industry leaders that stand out for you?
I think Jobs was charismatic, but not necessarily transformational because of the way he treated people, but empowering people that way. The guy at Morningstar Tomatoes who empowers people. Just picked up a book by the guy who started Vans shoes. I'm interested in learning more about him. The guy from Tom's Shoes as well. And the leaders of go cross-culturally, Tata Steel, they do great things. The India Steel Company, ethics, and they got rid of a CEO who didn't fit in ethically, so I admire that company as well. It's hard to think of a more important topic than leadership ethics because of the impact that it has on others, and that just makes it so important because leaders can seriously mess up other people's lives and make it heaven or hell, literally, someone like Hitler or Stalin. So I think it's critical for us to be studying leadership ethics, learning more about it, picking our leaders carefully, looking at the ethical background of our leaders. They don't have to be perfect, but is there a pattern of criminal activity? Is there a pattern of abuse? Would you want to work for this person on a one-to-one basis? How do they treat people? So I think that needs to be critical in terms of how we choose leaders, which is one reason why I think one of the things we need to explore is how have they handled failure in the past, for example. It might tell us some things about their character and how they're going to be responding to failure in the future. So I'd say let's keep at it. Let's keep investigating. Let's keep talking. Let's use this as a yardstick for the leaders that we choose.
So we need to hold each other and ourselves to a higher standard.
As high as possible, forgiving ourselves. I believe a big believer in apology and forgiveness is part of that. I'm interested to maybe find out more about what happens to people who have fallen and kind of ethical failings. How do they come back from that? Where do you go from there?
Craig, I really appreciate your time and having our discussion. I've learned a lot.
Like I say, it's such an important topic. I always enjoy talking about it.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
We've been speaking with Craig Johnson, who's the author of Meeting the Ethical Challenges of Leadership, Casting Light or Shadow. If you'd like to find out more about Craig, you can find him at George Fox University, online at Amazon, and Sage Publications. That's another edition of the Conversation Lab. This radio program and podcast is produced by CFRO-FM in Vancouver's downtown east side. We're on the territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Our gratitude and thanks to them, as well as to the many not-for-profit organizations, community groups, and change makers around the world that support this program. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider becoming a member of Co-op Radio to support this program and the many others produced by hundreds of volunteers. If you have a story to share or know someone who does, please have them contact us at coopradio.org, theconversationlab.ca, and on many social media and podcasting platforms. This episode was cobbled together with some help from Brian McKinnon, Kimit Sekon, John Massacar, and Julian Anton. Thanks, guys, and thank you for listening. I'm Don Schaefer.